Where does dark and light skin come from? I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I'm a philosopher. I'm allowed to ask questions. Scientists are liars a lot of times. They don't tell the truth. So we can go by our own observations, not go by it, but we can study that. We can question it. We can be wrong and say we don't know 100% sure and pose the question by doing so. And I'm going to take the liberty of my freedom of speech to do so instead of remain ignorant. I'm allowed to observe. Guess what? I'm light skinned. Even in my own family, I'm one of the lighter skinned ones. We didn't all come out with the same skin tone. But how does my skin get darker? It does do that. Now, racists will make fun of me when I get sunburned and say that my skin only turns red. Like that's a bad thing. But when your skin's burnt, it turns red on a light skinned person at first, and then it darkens because the sun, light, and the vitamin D causes it to dark, some process where it causes it to darken. And if you have dark skin, it does the same thing. And sometimes you can see when somebody with darker skin gets burnt. You can see the redness in it if you look at it, but it's not as easy to see. But it gets burnt and it's red at first, and then it gets even darker. It turns brown, turns tan. For me, it turns tan, and it's been dark enough where it's turned basically brown looking, and brown and beige are a shade of brown. White people are not really white; they're beige. And then they tan in the sun. Black people are not really black; they are brown skinned, and they turn darker brown in the sun. And some people will say, "No, that's black," when it's really dark skin. And I've heard black people say that, and I've heard white people say it who want to deny that we're one human race. And that's black folks that do it too, racist black folks, not just racist white folks. And I've run into more racist black folks in America than I have racist white folks, by far, not even close. And who don't want to claim we're one human race, right? They don't want to believe it. They try to ignore all the evidence. They want to say that black people are superior and that white man never existed, and that the Israelites, the real Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites, they call themselves, are black. And then I've come to find out a lot of them are connected to, they support ISIS terrorist groups and stuff. Some of the ones I've met. But, so they're connected to Islam in a way, and other false religions. But, and I'll define false by, they don't have a living God. They don't have a God that proved the power over death. And if you're going to have a real religion, it has to have a God that proved the power over death. And really, so Jesus really disqualified all other religions when he rose from the dead and forgave on the cross. And when he ascended to heaven almost 40 days later after he rose from the dead and showed his hand to doubting Thomas and saw all these other witnesses. Anyway, so where does dark skin come from? It seems obvious, and the geographical evidence shows that it comes from below this south of the Sahara Desert in Africa, from Ham's descendants, Noah's son, Ham, and they moved down in Africa. And that's not the only place, but I'm saying it's because they were close to the equator. Well, you have UV rays, and that your body needs protection from the sun and UV rays. When you have more vitamin D, and your skin darkens, that's a protection of your skin from cancer. And so it makes sense that, and I've heard this by now a scientific study somewhere. I don't know where, I can't remember, but it was that, in Africa or near the equator, you have your fruits and vegetables have more vitamin D to help protect your skin from the sun rays. So I'm not going to say that's the only place darker skin came from, because Asian people have a little bit darker skin. And I haven't, and in China, they're in cold region. It's cold, I think, in China. Well, maybe not. It's cold in Russia, and there's light skin, but it's cold. European countries are cold and they have light skin. But, how do you turn skin from dark to light? Skin doesn't usually go from dark to light. So you don't have dark skin move north and then your skin turns light. It does. I mean, you don't get as much sun. It turns lighter, but it doesn't turn all the way to like a white person, beige. So if you're dark skinned, but over time you build genetics. If you mix with a person that has those genetics, uh, see one ethnicity, a man is a black man that marries a white woman, or a black woman marries a white man. Sometimes their child comes out light skinned, usually darker skinned though. It's usually or light skin with um, brown eyes instead of blue eyes. It varies, though. I mean, to tell the truth, one person will say, well, most of the time, the more dominant race, they'll say race. It's still one human race, ethnicity. But there is a bit of a dominant gene. Uh, I guess, I don't know if I believe the studies about melanin. Everybody has melanin, but maybe there is more melanin if that's a true study. Uh, in people who had developed darker skin from having more vitamin D. And you got wild yams, which is a hormonal, it actually builds growth hormone. Wild yams grow in Africa and they affect growth hormone, which could have something to do with, it seems there's more good athletes in the black culture than the white culture. Now, that could be, or the ethnicity, I say. And, because culture is different too. I mean, it's also a culture thing where more people are interested in certain athletics in the various black cultures than in the white cultures. So there's more white people that want to be doctors and nurses, and nowadays there's more black people in America who are also aspiring to be doctors and nurses and different things. But it's partly culture, and it also the culture where, and when it comes to basketball, I know from experience, some white folks didn't want to deal with having to fight and worry about getting killed on the basketball court. And if you look at Charles Barkley, he believes in fighting and hurting people. I mean, sorry, Charles, but you said it out of your own mouth. But he's done that, and I've seen it. I used to win basketball games in the gyms, and it was black and white people, and I was beating these black guys, and they'd start playing tackle football with me on the basketball court. And I didn't care to keep doing that. I was thinking I got to keep my legs and my everything intact for track and fields, and I got to keep my lips and teeth intact to play my trumpet. And really, the thing that stopped me at some points from wanting to fight, I mean, I have a spiritual belief about it. I have temper control, but you get prideful. I mean, your pride gets in the way in those situations because you're already competing. You want to prove you're tough, but you also think, well, I don't want to die. If somebody starts fighting and the guns can come out. I've always thought of that too, but that's kept me from fighting. And I've always known that 10 people could jump on me or whatever. If I'd be by myself. But the main thing, to be honest, though, frankly, is what stopped me from fighting back in college and stuff. When I was playing basketball and people wanted to fight, thinking about my teeth, my lip, my trumpet playing. I was big on to the trumpet, and I didn't want to bust my lip and ruin my lip for playing trumpet back then. And fast forward many years from now, I can't play the trumpet now because I've heard it. I've burned. I've had injuries. I've had my lip busted. I've been jumped. I've been beaten by 4 or 5 people at a time a few times. But what ruined my lip was I burned it on drug relapse. Burned it the heck out of it one time. And it couldn't play. I haven't been able to blow the trumpet since. So not normal. I mean, it'll blow and all of a sudden it quits blowing. It's like the muscles close up or the skin moves in a way to block the air. I don't know what it is, but I hope I'll still work on it at some point to try again and see if I can get it back. Because I can blow it without practice. I can blow the trumpet and still have a good tone. Was known for my tone, and but then it just quits on me. The lip quits buzzing. It doesn't buzz. But so you have now, and some people want me not to keep that secret and don't tell anybody all that, but it's what happened. That's what happened to me. So you have, or else I'd be playing trumpet. And some people don't believe I can't play the trumpet, and they think I'm lazy or something, or why wouldn't I want to play the trumpet? How much work I put into the trumpet? Let's say 4 hours a day on Saturdays during college, while everybody's sleeping. And then I'd go get called lazy because I wasn't studying as much as everybody else. Why? Because I was practicing trumpet 4 hours. No, I wasn't studying as much when I had a girlfriend at one point. But uh, I'll play the blame game on that. I'm just playing. But I have, so back to, I want to close this out, and I didn't really want to go past 10 minutes. But I didn't think it would be that long. But that's how it goes. That's how it goes sometimes. I've already forgot my subject. And, oh, geez. I went blank. I'm really blank. I forgot my subject. I went on a rabbit trail, and maybe if I sit up, I can get some blood flowing to my head. And yes, I am hiding the background behind me, so that's why I'm in a position where I can't even think straight. Well, oh, dark skin. So it doesn't matter what your skin tone is. I don't know why people make a big deal out of it. And who makes the biggest deal out of it in America? It's always the Democrats. The Democrats always make a big deal about skin tone. And it's particularly, now if you're out in the inner city and all that, it's the dark-skinned people that make a big deal about skin tone. And even in Africa, you hear about dark-skinned people hating on light-skinned black folks. And, man, I'm not saying it doesn't exist in the white culture, but, when they talk about call somebody racist or whatever, it's because they're against somebody who steals nowadays. It's like they're against stealing, and there's, for some reason, and starting in Chicago and other places, they've made it popular to steal in the gangs. Now, I'm not going to just say for some reason. I think the Democrat Party purposely made black cultures in the poor areas and that they turned into ghettos slaves to drug cartels from Mexico, and they've created an American drug cartel that a lot of them are Islamic run, and it's black on black slavery a lot of times. And they'll make a slave out of anybody. They don't care if you're black or white. It's about money. And so it's about money and power and not wanting to go to jail. So they set up other people to go to jail. They set up other people to get killed. They don't have standards about thou shalt not kill. And so that just grows. It's a domino effect. But anyhow, I don't want to get too much into it, but we'll just talk about the skin and I'll close out. The skin doesn't matter. It's what you believe that matters. And really, bottom line, if you believe in Jesus Christ, that's what matters. You know what? Nothing about my success matters, except that I used my time wisely to be able to speak more about Christ. The fact that I repent of my sins, and then I've gone back and sinned again. I don't want to be a preacher. I'm going to do a video about what's good about preachers, and maybe a short video. Well, they're smart. They can speak well today. We want to listen to valedictorians be speakers, not people like me. But I've tried to sharpen my speech, and I'll try to be creative and do quick things. But I like hearing. I want to hear people to hear my side instead of this perfect grammar and all this. I still want good grammar, but I come from a perspective that's real life. I don't want this. What do you call it? Traditional kind of talking. I want to talk casual. I want God exists outside of traditional speaking. Jesus exists. He's real. He's real. If you die on the toilet, and you're either going to heaven or hell. If you die on the toilet, you're still going to heaven if you die on the toilet. Hey, so if you believe in Jesus, right? You're going to Jesus heaven. All right? You're not going to Jesus heaven if you signed up for some other heaven. But Jesus is the only one that proved there's a real heaven. All right? So that matters. But so dark skin is skin. It's what's in the heart and the mind that matters. We can breed people. We've bred people to have. We breed a giant with a giant. You get a giant. That happens more in African cultures than other cultures, it seems. Now that happens in various cultures. Though there's giant white people. There's giant Asian people. So, but there's more of that in the African cultures, and partly in American slavery, even people did breed the most athletic black men with a lot of women that weren't their wives. That's kind of like what the Mormons do. I forget what you call it. And when they marry more than one wife. But this was breeding to have the stronger slaves and stronger employees, and that's partly where may have better athletes or more. I won't say they're all better. I don't agree with that because I was one that could compete with anybody in most things without much practice. Yeah, by the way. So, but it comes from breeding, a lot of it, and so it's probably true. There are more good athletes in the black cultures from that standpoint. There's more by number. Doesn't mean Larry Bird doesn't exist. There's a It doesn't matter what ethnicity you are. If you're a human being, you're capable of having talents, right? And so anyway, and it's not true that all white people can't sing and all white people can't jump. I could jump from the foul line almost. No, I'm sorry, from halfway to the foul line at only 5'10" and a half. I was 10 and 3/4. I've shrunk now. I'm about 10 and a quarter. But back in high school and stuff, I was 5'10" and 3/4 without shoes. And with the volleyball, because I can palm it, I could jump from behind the volleyball line, which is a little over halfway to the foul line, and I could dunk it, almost double pump dunk it with my right hand. I couldn't dunk easy with two hands because my arms aren't the same length when I'm reaching upwards. Anyway, but and it's harder. You got to be able to go higher or be taller and go higher to dunk with two hands than one hand anyway. So I jump off my left foot, so it's easier for me to reach up with my right hand. But I could do it, and so I could jump. Did high jump, and I'm white. So it's just talent varies from person to person. I don't know too many other white people that could do it like I could do it. But in college, I met a lot more that could. High school, I didn't. So, anyhow, but the skin, so it's not, I don't believe it's true at all. They're just making up stuff, trying to be racist and act like white people are worthless. And that then on top of that, they're acting like the Israelites are the only ones that matter. And there's these racist groups, and one of them's called the Black Hebrew Israelites. That's one of the main ones pushing that the real Israelites were black. The real Jews were black. We were the real Jews. And I say, well, it's a good thing Hitler didn't think that, and I'm not promoting that it doesn't matter that Israelites were white, and some of them were probably similar to Pakistani and almost Indian skin tone. Some people, we can argue that Jesus may have been a little darker skinned than we say that, and people say it like they're pretty sure he was, just to pacify people who want him to be black. Well, it doesn't matter what his skin tone was. He may have been a little darker living near Pakistan. May have not have been. The pictures we have of him are irrelevant. I don't think it matters. I don't want to show a white Jesus or a black Jesus. I just like talking about that he was a human being and he died for everybody. To show that he is God. He died for himself to prove he was God. He died for his purpose, for his will, to prove he was God to everybody. And so we got ethnicity from language change in the Bible. So I could call myself Reality Harmonizer Bob in this, because this is the topics I spoke on that I'm bringing up now in my books I wrote in 2020. And they're on Amazon Books. But, and I speak against evolution, and it's easy to get kicked off of social media for speaking against evolution, and that's not fair. It's not freedom of speech. I've never seen anybody evolve. I see people die. We got billions of people in the world today. They all die. They were all born from a mother and a father. Whether it was a sperm bank or whatever, they were still born from a mother and father. They didn't evolve. And they don't evolve. They grow. They mature. Then you start hunching over as you get older, most of the time, and you die. So you're not coming from a hunched over state. You're coming from a birth state of being. You come from that. You don't evolve from a monkey. We don't evolve from monkeys or Neanderthals who are hunched over and straighten our backs. Our backs get worn out and they hunch over as we die. So, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? We got history books from the Bible. Some people will call it, they made up fairy tales. Though they still talked about their family. They still had talked about people the same way we have people today. They didn't have evolution back then. They had people just like we do today. They had mothers and fathers, and they documented that in the Bible. So one of the boring things about the Bible is that they document so and so begat so and so. So and so had this grandfather, this great grandmother, and this great great grandmother, and this great 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 grandmother, and that's how we got here. And that's not fairy tale. How is that a fairy tale? That's not a fairy tale. I mean, that's the most boring part of the Bible, unless you have a perfect memory. And a lot of people have way better memories for that than me. That was my tough thing in high school, was history test and studying dates over and over. I'd study 4 hours using 3x5 cards, turning them over, and make a stack of the ones still had a stack left of the ones I forgot. I had to keep going through those and then start over and see if I'd remember them after I go through the whole stack again. And I know people that could study for 10, 15 minutes to 30 minutes and ace the test. Most people could do that. Not me. So, but I'm glad I've had to study some things and notice stuff people don't, that matters, like stuff that is relevant, really pivotal. I've noticed pivotal things and that uncover a lot of lies today. So a lot of smart people are good at lying too. People who are a lot smarter than me, I mean. So I'm not the lowest IQ. I'm not the highest IQ. And most people who don't have much IQ, it's because they don't care. It's not because they don't have a decent IQ. I don't know how they measure that exactly, but there's more than one type of IQ test, but there's a standard one as well. So it's I like to say everybody has more than one IQ, and I'm talking about you can look this way, you can look that way. Anyway, but it also relates to IQ, intellectual, whatever that stands for. See, I don't even know that. Intellectual capacity, and that capacity starts with a C. I've never looked up what does it stand for. I mean, but dark skin comes from being in the sunshine. If you live near the equator, you need more protection. God created vegetables and fruits that help us have more vitamin D near the equator. You got yams, that affects your hormones affect your skin tone. So if I could take vitamin D, that helps my skin be healthier. Darker seems, we consider that healthier in some ways. With if you're low on vitamin D, it's not healthier. So, but vitamin D darkens your skin. So, so if somebody's really fair complected, you can tell if their skin has blemishes sometimes, and then if they take more vitamin D, then it gets rid of some of the blemishes. So I mean, it's just doesn't. How does that affect? What's your character? What do you believe in? Are you going to heaven or hell? Do we all have that choice? Yes, we do. Black or white, we have that choice. You have the choice to choose Jesus, who proved the power of heaven, or you have the choice to not choose him. And he says, love your neighbors. Who are your neighbors? It's all of us. I mean, I'm not going to get into the enemy stuff. I got to close out. And I'm ready to close it out just because I don't want a 30-minute video. But so I'll close it out before 25 minutes. So I might touch on these things a little bit. But who are we? We're human beings created in the image of God. We all came from Adam and Eve. We came from Noah's family after the flood, which disproves evolution. That's why they don't like to acknowledge the flood. But it disproves it because it wasn't that long ago, and a few thousand years ago, right? So it's not tens of millions of years ago, and we didn't evolve since then. What God did, he changed the language at the Tower of Babel because we thought we could all get to heaven. We worked together unified in one language, and we built the tower thinking we could get to heaven without God's help. And so he decided to confound the language and change the language. And Noah's sons Ham went south according to their languages. And they had similar language, dialects, I guess. And Shem and Japheth went northward and northwestward. Because you had the northeast, you had the ocean over there. So after the flood, though, we had landed in Iraq near Turkey. And so the Babel is near Babylonia, or what was the town, Babylonian? Well, anyway, so that's where the Tower of Babel was built. and then God changed the language. So we didn't migrate from Israel. We migrated from somewhere in Iraq, and we all migrated from there after the flood. So wherever the Garden of Eden was, the Tigris and Euphrates River, which is all does go through part of Africa, and so people want to say we had dark skin. But the thing is if you think about it, if you're going to be honest about it, if all black people from Africa moved to Russia, would they turn white after 10,000 years? I'm not sure about that. I don't think they would unless they married white. So, and mixed it like that. So, but I do think that science shows, the real science, the kind of simplified science that I can evaluate. I shouldn't be disqualified if you think, oh, that's not great science, or you don't know what you're talking about. From my speculation, from simple science, it makes sense that people get darker from the sun shining, being out in the sun, and it turning you darker tan, and if you do a lot of vitamin D. And so you don't want too much vitamin D intaking too much, because your liver has to process all that stuff. But so it's also hormonal foods, hormones, growth hormone, different things like that, certain things that can affect your skin, melanin and all that. So, and then it's your gene adapts to that. The genes or the DNA, but it's still a human DNA. It's not superhuman. It's nothing like that. It's protective of the skin. So how does that make us unequally human? It doesn't. I mean, God created beauty. I may do a thing on that. Are women beautiful? Are women prettier than men? And I'm being sarcastic when I talk about that, but generally women are considered pretty and men are considered handsome, right? So I'm not going to go into that, but there is this beauty thing, and obviously there are, in my opinion, a lot of pretty women, but I've seen pretty women with light skin. I've seen pretty women with dark skin. It's not the skin that makes somebody pretty, but it does make some distinctions. And you fall in love with somebody that's dark skinned, and you like their skin from a romantic standpoint. You fall in love with somebody who's light skinned, and you like their skin tone from a romantic point. You like their smile. You're used to seeing their smile with that dimple, whether they're dark skin or light skin, and that's beauty to you. And that should be monogamous, and that happens when your emotions are involved and you're connected spiritually. And there's more potential for love and enjoying the beauty of life in a deeper way than when you are in a relationship that's connected spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, and forgives and redeems and understands we're human, only human. And then because everything about us is not pretty, we all take dumps. We all use the restroom. We all have to take showers. And we all have to try to watch our diet and try to take care of ourselves and be easier to be around, because it's not so hard for us to get around if we've gained weight. That's difficult. But it's not always attractive. And then you can also make being overweight attractive. You can do that. You can appeal to people with in different ways, and people do that. But life is not all about pleasure and lust. So when you get rid of that, there's just deeper connections. And then if you help each other see God and be pure before God in a relationship, that's best. And that's beautiful. That's what the kind of beauty we should really love. And so I got to go.